reacting or responding to Rigathi Gachagua within hours, within the same day. The former deputy president says something and the president finds the need to respond to him almost immediately. You must agree, he cannot be ignored at this point.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think 2027 is going to be very, very interesting politics. So from what I've just heard right now, we might have a Gachagua DCP candidate running. We might have Kalonzo Musyoka running. We might have William Ruto running. So the dynamics, Sifuna probably as well running, you know. But the thing is, when all is said and done, let us have politics that is not demeaning and insulting. Let us not have politics that is dividing our people. You know, for me, the one thing that I know that every political leader likes a block, right? And they should learn from Baba. Even though Baba came from Luo Nyanza, right? He was a nationalist. He served this country. And I see something in that. Also, you know, I mean, I look at Kindiki coming in from a very small community in the mountain region, but appealing to Kenyans across the entire country. All right, we have to understand that we've been in a dark place as a country in 2007 because of tribal politics. I would like to think that if a leader stands up and says that the entire mountain is mine, the entire mountain will do as I say, right? There are two things to observe about life. You know, you might, you know, everything depends on God, all right? So we cannot claim the people, right? Even your members, you know, ODM has a membership, right? We cannot even go there and say everybody in our membership, 100% will go this way.
But is it wrong for any politicians to declare themselves king of anywhere?
You see, this is the politics that we've had since independence, where we've divided according to tribal cocoons. And I feel that the more we educate Kenyans, then we go into issue-based politics. So I think let's focus on what our people need, all right? But politics, the way it is, and it's not going to go away soon, we have to avoid at all cost tribal politics, the politics of insulting. And let me tell you, I won't be surprised if in the future you will see probably President Ruto in Gachagua sitting and negotiating. So the people and the grassroots.
But don't you think that the president himself has contributed to a lot of this by constantly responding or finding the need to respond to Rigathi Gachagua?
You know, I think that there are certain places that you go that are so low that warrant a response, okay? But I think the president, when I listen to the president, right, if the president is talking, 90% of his speech will be on issues and on development. Maybe 10% he'll throw in something there, you know, to tell him, you know, here's your take it back. But let's focus on developing this country.
But if we just focus on the politician Rigathi Gachagua, this is commendable by any standards. It used to be only Raila Odinga who could command that kind of response. The National Assembly keeps talking about Rigathi Gachagua, even without a substantive motion to discuss the man. Do you agree that, yes, we are seeing the rise of another gigantic politician in Kenya?
It is extremely dishonorable to compare Raila Odinga with the Rigathi Gachagua. Raila Odinga was a nationalist. Rigathi Gachagua has openly declared that he's a tribalist.
Yes.
He has never pushed a nationalist agenda as an individual. Everywhere he goes, his rhetoric is about watu wetu, sisi watu wa mulima. Remember, a politician, and a good politician at that, I think Rigathi is a good politician in the context that I'm just about to tell you. A good politician is one who makes his personal problem to look like it's a people's problem.
Yes.
But a good leader is one person who identifies people's problem to make it his problem. Now that's the difference. So Gachagua has created a narrative of even implying that Mount Kenya people are excluded from this government when they form 50% of the President Ruto government. They, in boards and parastatals, wherever, they are everywhere. He's the only one who was removed from the seat through the action of the law. And again, you cannot say that Professor Kindiki is a lesser deputy president than he was, because deputy president, former deputy president Gachagua was deputy president by virtue of the operation of law. The same way, Professor Kindiki is there by virtue of the law that is provided for us to follow. So I do not like the kind of political hygiene that I'm seeing around in terms of the narrative that is pushing towards 2027, especially one that is being advanced by Gachagua.
They say that the end justifies the means for a politician as long as
it's very wrong even for the generations that are coming. If you look at the 1992 kind of political framework that we had in the country, there was a nationalistic approach. Those ones who were in the opposition were pushing a nationalistic agenda. But Honorable Nyutu's friend here, every time he stands on top of a car, he's talking about what way to sit, what to get. So how is someone who does not belong to his ethnic group going to feel that he is still welcome under the arrangement of the political formation is creating?
Are you denying the kind of following that he has? Are you denying the kind of following he has?
I did the projections the whole of last week on various scenarios of winning in 2027. And under all those circumstances, William Ruto is winning in 2027. So all these are sideshows. And even Honorable Nyutu has revealed the secret that the whole thing, the whole reason as to why Gachagua joined the so-called united opposition was to disrupt it. Their intention is to play around some games and hope for the Supreme Court to do some magic so that he also runs for an elective seat so that he can come with a handful of members of parliament that I think Honorable Nyutu will be elected on the basis of that defense of Gachagua. He'll be elected on his DCP party because he's come out as someone who's defending him. So those MPs and senators, among them Honorable Nyutu, will be part of the negotiating tool for Gachagua to be part and parcel.
But let me get you right. Let me get you right. Are you denying the kind of pool that Rigathi Gachagua has as a politician, whether regional or whatever?
He is playing games. There's nothing like support. Support cannot be determined at the ballot, and it's not going to be.
Then why? How come every cabinet, quite a number of cabinet secretaries, the National Assembly, the president, the deputy president, how come all of them find the need to talk about this man? If at all, is
because I've told you, he's a good politician. He's playing with the minds of the people. He has turned his personal problem of losing the job to look like it's everybody's problem. Now, those ones who are not so keen enough or who easily get provoked, because you remember his cards, he said that he wanted the president to be annoyed to a certain level. So this is just cat and mouse kind of games. They have nothing to do with the national agenda. And that's something that we should really run away from. No one should fall into this trap of attracting this kind of conversation around Rigathi Gachagua.
All right.
Because the impeachment determined that it's not suitable to hold public office as defined, or state office as defined in Article 260 of the Constitution. And if you read it together with Article 75 sub Article 3 of the Constitution of Kenya, it does not qualify to hold any office in this country.
All right. Senator, there's really some facts that he has spoken about, or even on the list of accusations on his impeachment, that issue about tribalism. I think that was one of the prominent things. Why is it so difficult for Rigathi Gachagua to convert this, if it's political goodwill that he may have, even from that one region, to a more nationalistic approach?
Fred, allow me to say this, that Honorable Pasari says that now I'm revealing that, or she says that from my argument, that there will be several presidential candidates from the united opposition. She says that now it's clear Gachagua will be running, Kalonzo will be running, and probably Sifuna will be running. That was not what I said. I said that Rigathi Gachagua will or may be cleared by the courts to run. So that when they sit on the table, and I want to be very clear on this, that the United Alternative Government has pledged that they are going to present one candidate. What I'm saying is that on the table where they are going to sit and decide who amongst them will carry the flag, that Rigathi Gachagua could sit on that table as a qualified presidential candidate. I have not said, lest I'm misquoted, that there will be several presidential candidates. What I've said is nobody should dismiss Rigathi Gachagua as somebody who will not be amongst the candidates that will be considered when we are picking one flag bearer. So in case President Ruto had started getting excited that maybe now we are insinuating that there will be several presidential candidates, I want to say sorry. We are going to present one, but Rigathi Gachagua will be amongst those that will be considered for that ticket. That is exactly what I meant, because we must be very clear about some of these things. And I'm glad that Honorable Pasari says that we should avoid politics of insults. How I wish that Honorable Pasaris, who is in the broad-based government today, how I wish she can go and tell President Ruto that. Because he's the one who initiates these insults. When he says people are brainless, people are, kuna mtu wa size yangu. He is the person who does that. Please, Honorable Pasaris, when you meet President William Samoei Ruto, who heads the broad-based government which you belong to, please tell him to give us a break as Kenyans, insulting other people, saying who farts when, where, who eats more than who. And tell him also to stop announcing the death of, heads of cattle and what. He can do better as president. Please tell him that. We need, better politics and more mature politics, not, politics done by like people who are looking for to be elected as cattle dip chair people. So please let him know that. Now, this thing that Foba and many people keep saying that Rigathi Gachagua is a tribalist, well, Raila Amolo Odinga was a nationalist. Fred, can I tell you something? That the only difference between Rigathi Gachagua and other politicians is that he says what he means and means what he says. President Ruto will tell you, for example, because the only person I would want to compare with Rigathi Gachagua is actually Ruto himself, not the others. Forget about the others. It's Ruto that we are comparing with Rigathi Gachagua. President Ruto will keep saying that he's uniting the country just by joining a section of ODM. A section of ODM with a section of UDA. And President Ruto will tell you, we are in this union to unite the country. My foot, which country? UDA, the original UDA, remember some of us, most of us were there. Rigathi Gachagua was there. All those followers you see with Rigathi Gachagua were there. ODM, NASA, so many people were there. Akina Sifuna were there. Babu Owino were there. James Orengo were there. So when you say that that you are uniting the country by just bringing William Ruto and Oburu Odinga together, it's laughable. So what he's doing, he is trying to unite Kalenjins, some Kalenjins, and some Luos, and he calls that national unity. What Rigathi Gachagua does is that he says he does not pretend. Look at the appointments, and I can give you a list of, parastatal chiefs and what have you that President Ruto has appointed from his community. Mm-hmm. So he will come out here and say he's a nationalist while practicing tribalism. So Rigathi Gachagua does not pretend.
So you do agree that
he's not.
He does not pretend.
What I'm saying is
he's a tribalist, and that's what he does.
I'm not saying he's a tribalist. I'm just saying that he accepts that his major base is the mountain.
Because my question, Senator, was, why is he not keen on converting this political goodwill from the mountain and probably elsewhere into a more nationalistic approach?
But he does, Fred. That is why he has reached out to His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. He has reached out to Fred Matiang'i. He has reached out to even George Natembeya. He has reached out to Eugene Wamalwa. He has reached out to everybody, but nobody wants to see that. What Rigathi Gachagua does and says is, let us unite our blocks. Let people unite their support bases. Because in this country, people have their support bases. Okay. Raila Amolo Odinga, and I respected that leader, great leader, but his major support base is was Luo Nyanza. That was his major support base. Then he had other bases elsewhere. So what Rigathi Gachagua is saying, let each one of us unite and bring together their support blocks, their support bases, so that then we unite them together. I mean, Fred, I don't see why people have a problem with this. When we talk of the East African community, for example, I mean, President Ruto will bring Kenya as a bloc to the East African community. President Samia will bring Tanzania as a community, as a bloc. And so will the other presidents. It's the same thing that Rigathi Gachagua is uniting and consolidating Mount Kenya. Okay. So that Kalonzo Musyoka basically will unite and consolidate to Kambani, where his major support base is. Fred Matiang'i, his major support base is Kisii.
Thank you, Senator.
Then we bring them together. How does that make you a tribalist? And then people keep saying, sisi watu wa Mulembe, sisi kamba Waluya. When they say that, those ones are not tribalists. But we from the mountain, when we say sisi watu wa Mlima, we are tribalists.
Thank you, Senator.
We refuse to be called tribalists just by
there's some truth in that, the fact that politics in Kenya is organized around communities and around regions. Is it not disingenuous when we accuse one person of solidifying his background and or his political base? And don't you think we are lying to ourselves that all these leaders who've been elected as presidents have not enjoyed that kind of support from a particular region?
I want to say two wrongs never make a right. Kenyans, when I saw the beauty about the Gen Zs when they came out is they were tribalists. They were leaderless, all right? And a lot of people have tried to hijack that movement. The Gen Zs want accountability, they want jobs, they want opportunity, they want peace, all right? That's why they didn't come out and do the wrong thing. We obviously wronged quite a lot of them with the killings that we had, right? We're now looking at reparation. A country, Kenya is a young democracy. If you look at countries like France, and they had revolutions during the French Revolution, you look at the US, all right? And you look at Europe, these are democracies that have grown over years. We were colonized just 65 years ago. We were under different masters. We have a long way to go.
But even the US has blue states and red states. Some people enjoy support from particular regions.
Yes, you see, their politics has actually emerged into, now they have independent, they have Republicans with certain values, and then you've got Democrats. And now you have Democrats who definitely hate what's going on with the Republicans, all right? So what I want to say, as a country, right, we have always pegged our politics into tribalism. And we need to take from Baba, the one thing that Baba told us is the entire country, whether your president comes from your region or not, devolution says you should be reached by your government and you should be supported. All right, that's number one. Number two, our politicians who talk tribalism. I got elected twice in Nairobi. I was recently reminded I'm Greek, I have Kikuyu blood, okay? So for me, I love the culture and I love the Kikuyu music and I love the food, right? But I equally love the Luo fish, all right? And I equally love the Costarian pilau and biryani. Our culture, our diversity is the beauty of the continent of Africa. And Kenya. So what we have to realize is, what does everyone want? Good opportunities, the dreams of our forefathers, as coined in our national anthem, we need to get there. And for us to get there, we need to be able to see who is talking tribal politics, all right? Who is working with tribalism as the engineering or the fueling. Kenyans need to do one thing. Love your neighbor. It's biblical, all right? Love your neighbor. Your neighbor can be a different, somebody once said to me, when you go to the hospital and you receive blood, you get O positive, O negative, B, A, at the end of the day, you don't know whether that blood came from a Kale, a Luya, or Luo. So why do you need to know what tribe you are? I hardly even know tribes of people. I want to know you as a Kenyan, as a human, as a child of God, and I want to serve you in that respect.
Okay.
So let us shun the politics of tribalism.
Yet most of our politicians, and this is very evident, speak from a point of their community, from a standpoint of their background, where they came from, where they represent. Yet they're the first ones to quickly point fingers at other people who they feel are tribalists. Don't you think that when it comes to tribalism, our politicians are disingenuous when they point fingers?
First, let me get, Honorable Joe Newto has said a lot of things, but one thing that he has not denied is the fact that Rigathi Gachagua has been pushing a tribal agenda all through and through. How I wish we converted ourselves towards a different direction of saying we should have issue-based politics. Just because one person has advanced a tribalistic agenda, it does not justify the other person doing that. We must progress as a country so that we get out of this arrangement that you can qualify to be a CS or a PS without necessarily the president coming from your tribe. You can qualify to be a head of a parastatal without necessarily you being aligned to a certain tribe. Let us embrace merit-based kind of qualification so that you hold a position on the basis of your qualifications. Through that, we'll be able to develop our country because we'll fit competence to positions. So just because a mistake has happened somewhere, you do not justify it by advancing it further. I'll encourage that we, whether people come from Kisi, Mulembe, Nations, Coast, or wherever, we pursue this nationalistic agenda and encourage the coming generation, which is so nationalistic more than the generation that is making a lot of noise on TV right now. So we encourage people so that they embrace each other as Kenyans.
You're right.
And the example of saying you are meeting an ethnic conclave similar to what the president meets other states, it doesn't make sense. Because the state responsibility is very different from giving yourself a title of a tribal kingpin. It's very different because there's no time we go to elections to vote for an ethnic kingpin.
All right.
Yeah.
Politics of tribe and the rising star of Rigathi Gachagua in Kenyan politics. They say we should not compare him to Raila Odinga. But clearly, he's the one person or one politician that every other politician currently is responding to. All right, enough of Rigathi Gachagua, and I want to give you opportunity to make your final comments. Senator, we'll start with you. President William Ruto is coming to Murang'a this week. And what should we expect as you make your final comments?
Thank you, Fred. And